As the sun shined bright over the Omao community, people moved up and down, going about their own businesses. Maduka's house stood tall in the middle of the town. Everybody knew Maduka as the richest man in the community. He had 4 beautiful daughters named Ada, Nkem, Amaka, and Ifi. The girls were busy preparing for the prince's visit. The prince had been living abroad for so many years, and nobody in the village had seen him since he was a child. But everyone knew he was coming back to choose one of Maduka's daughters as his bride, in order to strengthen the relationship between the two families. Meanwhile, Ada, the first daughter in Maduka's household, was giving orders to the cleaners to make sure everywhere is sparkling clean before the prince arrived. "This house must look perfect," she said to the cleaner. Nkem laughed as she said, "As if the prince will notice all this cleaning. Well, I will be the first person he will notice, me especially." "Abeg shift," Amaka said, rolling her eyes. "The prince will see me first, before any of you. I'm the prince's bride-to-be." Ife sat quietly by the corner of the house, reading a book, as she watches her siblings arguing over the prince. As they were talking, they had a knock at the gate. One of the maids ran to open it. A young man entered the compound. He wore simple clothes and carried a small bag. "Who is this?" Ada asked with disgust. Their mother came out to explain quickly. "This is Shidi. He is the new gateman. He will stay here for a while and help out." The sisters looked at him from head to toe. "This one?" Ada said, frowning. "He doesn't even look strong." Ife smiled at the new gateman. "You are welcome, Shidi. I hope you like your stay here." Shidi nodded. "Thank you, ma," he said quietly. Over the next few days, Shidi started his work as the new gateman. He was respectful and always did what he was told. But Ada, Nkem, and Amaka treated him badly. They insulted him, laughed at him, and even told their mother to sack him. "Mom, this boy doesn't do anything right," Ada said one afternoon. "It's just a waste of time." But Ife was different. She always smiled at Shidi and greeted him whenever she passed by. Sometimes she would bring him cold water or food. "How are you, Shidi?" she would ask with a cheerful voice. "I'm fine, thank you, ma," he would reply, smiling back. The other sisters didn't like how friendly Ife was to Shidi. "Why are you wasting your time with that gateman?" Nkem asked Ife, her younger sister, one day. "He's a human being now. Why shouldn't I talk to him?" Ife replied. The day passed, and Shidi continued his work as the gateman. He kept his head down and did his job. But Ada, Nkem, and Amaka never missed a chance to insult him. One afternoon, as Shidi was sweeping near the gate, Ada and Nkem walked past him. Ada wrinkled her nose. "This Shidi sef," she said loudly. "See how he is looking so disgusting." Nkem laughed. "Somebody that doesn't even have ordinary small sense." Shidi ignored them and continued sweeping. Ife, who had been sitting nearby, stood up and went to meet him. "Don't mind them, Shidi," she said softly. "You are doing a good job." Shidi smiled. "Thank you, ma. You are very kind." Ife picked up a broom and started sweeping beside him. Ada and Nkem saw this and became more angry. "Look at this stupid girl," oh," Ada shouted. "You are sweeping with a common gateman? Don't you have shame?" Ife ignored them. "It's not a bad thing to help someone," she said calmly. Ada hissed. "Do whatever you like. Just don't come and cry when the prince ignores you." As they walked away, Shidi turned to Ife. "Why do you like helping me? Your sisters might not like it." "I help you because it's the right thing to do," Ife said. "My sisters can't control me." Shidi looked at her for a moment and smiled. "You are different." Meanwhile, Ada, Nkem and Amaka were busy getting ready for the prince's arrival. Every day, they tried on new dresses, practiced their courtesies, and even quarreled over who looked the best. "The prince will pick me, for sure," Amaka boasted one evening. "After all, I'm the most beautiful." Ada rolled her eyes. "You? Abeg, the prince will choose someone with class, and that is me." Nkem laughed. "Both of you are wasting your time. Everybody knows I'm the smartest and the prettiest, so the prince will choose me." Ify didn't join their argument. She spent most of her time helping the maids and sitting quietly in the garden reading her books. One evening, their mother gathered all the girls in the living room. "The prince will arrive in a few days," she announced. "I hope you all are ready to impress him." "Yes, Mom," the three older girls answered in chorus. Ify said nothing, but in her heart, she wasn't interested in showing off or pretending to be someone she wasn't. Shidi watched everything from the background. He saw how the sisters behaved when they thought nobody was watching. Ada, Nkem, and Amaka were proud and rude, but Ify was humble and kind. One evening, as she sat near the gate, Ify came to sit beside him. "How are you, Shidi?" she asked. "I'm fine, ma, thank you," he replied. "Please, can you stop addressing me as ma and call me by my name? After all, you are older than me." "Okay, Ify," he replied. They talked for a while, laughing and sharing stories. For the first time in a long while, Shidi felt happy in Maduka's house. But he knew he couldn't stay much longer. He had learned what he came to find out. It was time for him to leave. The next morning, Shidi went to see Maduka. "Sir, I want to thank you for the job, but I need to resign. I have to go back home." Maduka was surprised. "Why? Did something happen?" "No, sir. I just need to return to my family," Shidi replied. Maduka nodded. "Thank you for your hard work. I wish you all the best." A few days after Shidi left Maduka's house, the long-awaited announcement came. The prince had finally returned to Omaha. The news spread all over the community, and the entire community buzzed with excitement. In Maduka's house, the sisters were overjoyed. Ada, Nkem, and Amaka couldn't stop talking about how they would impress the prince. "Mom, we need to visit the palace today," Ada said. "We must be the first family to welcome the prince." "Yes, Mom, Ada is right," Nkem added. "The earlier he sees us, the better." Their mom agreed. "Let me call your father so we can all go together." Ify stood quietly in a corner, not as eager as her sisters. She was still thinking about Shidi, who had left without saying goodbye to her. The next morning, Maduka and his family dressed in their finest clothes and headed to the palace. When they arrived, the guards at the gate let them in, and they were taken to the royal hall. The king and the queen sat on the throne, smiling warmly. Beside them stood the prince, dressed in a fine traditional outfit. His face was calm, but his eyes held a hint of amusement as he watched the family approach. The girls were stunned by his appearance. He was tall, handsome, and carried himself with confidence. "Welcome, Maduka and family," the king said. "We are happy to see you." "Thank you, Your Majesty," Maduka replied, bowing slightly. The girls took turns introducing themselves, each trying to impress the prince. Ada smiled widely and courtesy. "Your Highness, I am Ada, the first daughter of Maduka's family." Nkem stepped forward confidently. "I am Nkem, the second daughter. It's a pleasure to meet you, Your Highness." Amaka giggled nervously. "I am Amaka, the third daughter. You are very welcome, Your Highness." When it was Ify's turn, she simply smiled and said, "I'm Ify. Nice to meet you." The prince nodded at all of them. but his expression didn't give anything away. After the visit, the family returned home, excited and hopeful. Ada, Nkem, and Amaka began arguing again about who the prince would choose. But later that evening, a royal messenger arrived at Maduka's household with an important announcement. The prince will host a special dinner tomorrow evening, the messenger said. He has invited your family to attend. The girls squared with excitement. They spent the entire night preparing, choosing their best outfits and practicing their smiles. At the dinner, the hall was filled with important people from the community. The Maduka family sat close to the royal family, eagerly waiting the prince's speech. When the prince stood up to speak, the room felt silent. He looked around, his eyes settling on Maduka's family. I want to thank everyone for coming tonight, he began. This dinner is special because I'm here to announce the person I will be getting married to. The girls held their breath, each hoping he would call her name. The prince continued, but before I do, I need to tell you all something. Before I returned as the prince, I wanted to find out what true love feels like. So I disguised myself as a common man and worked as a gateman. Gapes filled the room as everyone turned to look at him in shock. Yes, the prince said, smiling. I worked as a gateman in Maduka's household. During that time, I saw how each of his daughters treated me. Ada, Nkem, and Amaka froze in their seats, their face turning pale. The prince's words sent a wave of shock through the hall. Ada, Nkem, and Amaka exchanged nervous glances. They couldn't believe what they were hearing. I saw how 3 of Maduka's daughters treated me, the prince continued, his voice calm but firm. They insulted me, called me names, and even tried to get me sacked because they thought I was a nobody. Ada shifted uncomfortably in her seat, Nkem's hands trembling and Amaka's face turned red with embarrassment. But the prince said, his eyes softened. There was one person who treated me with kindness. She didn't care who I was or where I came from. She saw me as a human being and showed me respect. All eyes turned to Ife, who looked surprised and confused. Ife, the prince said, smiling, you were the only one who treated me like a friend. You shared your time with me, and your kindness touched my heart. That is why I've decided, he paused, letting the suspense hang in the air, to make you my wife. They all erupted in gapes and murmurs. Ada, Nkem, and Amaka stared at their sister in disbelief. Ada was the first to speak. Your Highness, I didn't know it was you. Please forgive us. Yes, Your Highness, Nkem added quickly. If we had known, we would have behaved differently. Amaka, almost in tears, said, we are so sorry. Please don't hold it against us. The prince looked at them and smiled gently. I have already forgiven you, but this was a lesson for me, to see who would love me for who I am, not for what I have. The sisters hung their heads in shame, realizing they had missed their chance because of their pride and arrogance. Ife, on the other hand, was speechless. She turned to the prince. Your Highness, I didn't know what to say. I wasn't trying to impress you. I was just being myself. And that is exactly why I choose you, the prince said. The wedding was the talk of the entire community. Everyone praised Ife for her humility and kindness, and many admired the prince for his wisdom in choosing her. Ada, Nkem, and Amaka eventually made peace with their sister and even helped with the wedding preparation. Though they were disappointed, they learned an important lesson about treating people with respect no matter their status. On the day of the wedding, The palace was filled with joy. The prince and Ife stood together, smiling as they exchanged vows. As the celebration continued, the king and queen watched proudly, grateful that their son had found someone who truly loved him for who he was. The prince turned to Ife and said softly, "Thank you for being you. You have shown me that true love exists." And with that, their journey began. Thank you for watching this video. If you enjoy it, please subscribe to my channel and turn on your notification so you never miss an exciting news story. Your support means a lot, and I look forward to sharing more captivating tales with you guys. See you in my next video, and remain blessed. Thank you.